Well, greetings and thanks for joining us for another episode of Lightbulb Moments. This is episode number 161. We'll actually have two parts today. So I guess it'll be episode 161, part A and part B, because we have two great guests, which I'll get to in a moment. Whether you are listening live, viewing live and listening, or whether you're on YouTube, checking it out, or a podcast, we're glad you're with us. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments. I'm also CEO and founder of Qnity. A lightbulb moment is a sudden realization, enlightenment, or inspiration. Remember, you can't start a fire without a spark. So hopefully today you'll get some sparks of some ideas. There'll be lightbulb moments of your own and that can do something to positively impact your business and your life. At Qnity, we're here to take what's confusing, overwhelming, and complicated to a simpler path to prosperity. And to prosper, remember to manage your ATM, the three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. And thank you for spending your precious time with us today. We love hearing from you, whether you got guest ideas, your own light bulb moments, or just you want to do a shout out, use the chat. Certainly you can email, go to our website, info@qnityinc.com. Also, if you're viewing this on YouTube or listen to the podcast, put some comments in the below in the chat. Check out past episodes, which we'll get to in a moment. But today we have two guests. We have Dave Murray of the DeJulius Group. He's VP and author of a new book that we're going to explore a little bit with Dave. And then we have Denise Boudreaux from SalonBiz, Director of Sales. Always love having Denise as a guest, and we're going to explore some things about heat maps, some really cool stuff. So anyway, super excited to get to today. Our last round was with a trio, a triad of business owners, Josh, Brent, and Doug from Square One, which shows that partnerships of three can endure, because this one has endured and is going strong for over 26 years. So very great episode with these three gentlemen. Also, I recently had Joz Miller, who's a luxury spa consultant, and she's a senior education manager at Boulevard. Sydney Barry's been with us recently, as well as Deborah Neal, Minter Dial, Galen Paulson, Gay Gaddis, Katie Pritchard, Dr. Elizabeth Ridgman Garda, Sam Bricado, Mike Leggett, and Liz and Jess Arundel. These are just some recent episodes. Check them out. They're all awesome because they're awesome people, and their sharing was wonderful. Remember to submit your own lightbulb moment of your own. Use the chat. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, who are Lightheart Sanders, who's a legacy sponsor. They've been a sponsor for multiple years, as well as Green Circle and Forest. So thanks to those companies. Upcoming dates, we do have some workshops coming up in the fall here, right in early September. Remember, September is a great month. It's called the Second New Year. It's a great time to go back to school. It's a great time to create some new initiatives in your business. And it's also a great time to join us for two of our workshops that are in Minnesota, September 9th and 10th. One is profit and the other one's growth. So definitely it's a great thing to send managers to or attend yourself if you're an owner or a leader. So you can definitely check those out. We'll put in the chat how to enroll. Also, we have a succession masterclass coming up on October 7th. I always love teaching this class. That also will be in Minnesota. Don't forget to check previous episodes of Money 02 by Erin. She's got some fantastic guests that she brings to the stage. So she drops these episodes, and they're just amazing people she talks to. Lightbulb moment this week. Well, this is the first episode as a grandfather. Erin had a child yesterday, a little Rian, healthy, happy. Everybody's happy and healthy and excited. So big news. A lot of light bulb moments about that. I'm sure you could pick my brain about that. I'm sure I'll have pictures and stories as we come in upcoming weeks. So that's a big one. And then the other one is last week, I mentioned a book that I've started to read, The Obstacle's the Way. And I got a nice note from someone that's started reading that book. And, I think that happy days, I think every day is a happy day personally, but there are hard things we go through in life. And, the reality is that having a book like The Obstacle is the Way is a really great way to refrain what might look like a failure, a false start, a huge obstacle, and how to turn it upside down. And I'm going to continue to share some things about that. But the most recent one, recent chapter I read, was all about the process. And we have these big audacious goals. I certainly hope you do. I hope you have light bulb moments that you have turned into a 9 grid and has turned into some massive, huge project initiative, whatever. But the process is really very, very much about success. And the example they give us from Nick Saban, he's a former head coach at Alabama. I think he's former coach. I think he just retired. Someone might correct me in the chat on that. But extremely successful coach. And it was all about just focusing on the moment. It's all about focusing on the next play. It's focusing on doing your job. And at the end of the day, if that happens, your big audacious goals are going to happen. So also a lot of really great things in there about resiliency, persistence, and I just really am inspired by the book. So anyway, that's my two light bulb moments of the week. One is expect some more grandfather type stories. Also watch for some pictures of precious little Rian. And then Erin will be back with us after a couple months, back in October. So we're manning the fort without her for a while, but we're super happy for her. I'm super happy. We're all super happy. And then the other thing is, yeah, it's great news, but sometimes we don't always have great news and how to reposition a failure or something that has held you back into a big win. Anyway, those are my light bulb moments this week. And with that, let's switch over to getting to our guest, Denise Boudreaux from SalonBiz, Director of Sales. I'm going to read a little write-up about Denise. I don't even need a write-up about Denise. I've worked with Denise for a very, very long time. I've always respected Denise. She's a true professional. She's a very caring person. And anytime she gets to be a guest on Light Bulb Moments, it's awesome. But we're going to get into a very specific topic. So a little more about Denise. She's dedicated to fostering lasting connections and championing success in the beauty industry. With over 18 years immersed in the salon and spa scene, her journey began with a magnetic pull towards the transformative power of making people look and feel their best. Before leading the sales team at SalonBiz, Denise honed her craft and operations, management, the acclaimed Paris Parker Salon and Spa Group. She thrives on driving businesses to new heights through data-driven marketing, data-driven strategies, and streamlining operations, allowing salon owners and beauty professionals to remain focused on doing what they love. How are you, Denise?
I'm doing great, Tom. How are you?
Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on becoming a grandfather. That's exciting.
It's very exciting. Yes, thank you. A little king is what that name means. So I'm calling him Little King. All right.
I absolutely love it. I'm glad everybody's happy and healthy. Can't wait to see some pictures.
So when exploring topics with you and I, we kicked around a lot of different ideas here, and we landed on one that was like, okay, I want to talk about that. And it's heat maps. And I've always been so curious. I'm going to take this off and then I'm going to bring it back because you actually sent over some cool visuals that we'll go through in a minute here.
Yeah, I like the visuals because we're all visual people in this industry, right? So if you can't look at it through that visual lens, it's kind of hard to digest.
So you told me about this feature, heat maps, and it instantly resonated with me. And let me kind of give you my backstory on this. So I've always felt there's a really big gap. I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to get to one reasons why I love heat maps, but there's a lot more that you're going to unpack. But I've always been intrigued with scheduling decisions by service providers, how they set their schedule. And, most are working under 30 hours a week. So those hours are precious. And to really make sure that those hours are scheduled, certainly to address lifestyle needs, but also what are the needs of the business? And so about 10 years ago, I created this graphic, and it was basically very simple. And it basically had like shaded for the 5 days of the week, like Monday all the way through, or Sunday all the way through Saturday. It had shaded when clients came in one column. And you could see it get darker and darker when it was busy. And then what we would do is we'd layer right next to that the schedule of a service provider. And it would instantly visually show, well, wait a minute, you're working an hour where no one comes in. And you're leaving right before the peak time of the day. So anyway, what's happened now is technology can help with that. So tell us a little bit more heat maps, and then you generously provided some slides. In fact, why don't I bring those up now? If you are listening to the podcast here, we'll try to describe them as best we can. Otherwise, those on YouTube will be able to see them as well as people live. So why don't you give us a brief introduction, and then we can go through some of your slides here.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the title of the feature is called Stat Maps, but you're right, you're giving the viewers a visual right there if they're just listening in. It really does tell you your peak times of when you're doing the most in that area that you're looking at. So there's a way, and it is like a heat map, or yield management is what we used to call it some time ago, but it really does allow you to hone in on very specific stats and be able to see when your peak times are, when you're really successful, the day of the week, the time of the week, and when you're not so successful with that. And the idea behind that is that you can identify some trends in your businesses and visually see where you need to put some strategy behind that area to improve it. So that's really the idea behind it. And the key metrics are total tickets. We can focus specifically on service revenue, service tickets, products. If you're in a high traffic kind of walk-in community, walk-in tickets, we can look at service per service tickets. Productivity is probably the biggest one, I feel like, that resonates with a lot of us because of the example that you just used. How do you know when you're scheduled enough? How do you know when people are coming in, when they're not coming in? And then also, what I also love are the online booking and online gift card pieces, right? A lot of times you put this technology in place and it's nice to visually see whether or not it's working and people are using it. So that's an interesting piece on the online booking and online gift card area.
I think this is hugely pragmatic, and I think let's go into some examples. I have on the screen, it looks like a page where you select what metrics you want to build a map on, and you just indicated a bunch of them. You know, tickets, which can be diced down into a variety of different ways, retail, online booking, productivity, et cetera. Anything else on this? This is really just how
really, you could use it overall to see the overall temperature of the business, or you can drill it down to specific staff categories. So you can really focus on, is my spa business driving this? Is my hair business driving this? Is color driving these numbers? And then you can also kind of play around with the dates to get a good representation of the time range that you want to see. So yeah, and then you build the map out.
Let's look at, I think the next slide gives us a map.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the stat map for productivity. So when we look at productivity, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but it is your percent booked. So how many hours do you have open compared to how many hours are actually being utilized with an appointment? And this is my favorite one, and I'll tell you a few different use cases for this. Is that one, you can determine your hours. We kind of touched on that just a moment ago. You know, clearly from this, if you're looking at being on Thursday afternoons, I'm 20 to 17% booked. Well, you know what? We can probably play around with closing an hour earlier there, or maybe 2 hours earlier there, right? Or if I'm 100% booked first thing when I open on Wednesdays at 11 a.m., maybe I can look at opening to 10 a.m. and expanding that to see if that's a high demand time. So you can kind of start to visually see areas where you could play around with your hours, and also just a quick temperature check to see if your hours are optimized. You know, if everything's looking good and evened out, then you're probably doing a really good job, right?
So what this indicates, I'm looking at a screen where there's a number, and a percentage should go next to these numbers then, right? So 100 would mean 100%. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll also kind of tell you like your peak days. Like if you look at Thursday has a star there, you're highly productive during that time, and then also your peak hour too. Now a few other use cases for this that I like, because this is where you can start to talk into, you can determine your hours, but one of the buzzwords, is flexibility recently. We talk about people that want to work less hours. They want that good work-life balance. I'm sure a lot of salon owners have team members that are coming to them either wanting to split their schedule up so that they can do something in the middle of the day, go to the gym, go to pick up their kid from school, or just flex staff scheduling in general, right? This could be a tool that you can use to determine, does it make sense for me to entertain this? Or I do want to entertain this. Now I need some sort of guide as to when those times would be, right? So that I can go back to the staff member, give them a few options to choose from and start working together to define what that flexible schedule would look like. I mean, ideally, you don't want to necessarily move someone's schedule to a time that's been consistently unproductive if they have been consistently unproductive. But we could, if we have a very high productive person that wants to move to an unproductive time, that might be a really good strategic business move. You can improve there, right? Recruitment is another thing that we could use this for. Are we consistently 80% plus booked in certain areas? And does our salon space allow us to have another person behind the chair? So recruitment, this would identify some recruitment opportunities too.
All right, let's go to another one here. So this was productivity.
Now, this is where it is the trend piece, right? So underneath each of these areas in the stat map is where you could identify trends in that specific stat. So we can see here that, and if we look at the date range here, we're like right in holiday season using this example. Like we have a peak in productivity on the 13th of December, which is 2 weeks before our holiday. That's probably common in a business, right? But then we can also see the trend is that dotted line. The productivity in December is going slightly down. Is that seasonal? Maybe, maybe not. But again, this is where you can play around with the date ranges to see where your trends are. Are you trending up? Are you trending down? Are you plateauing? So this is a good area to kind of visually see what direction you're going in, basically.
Yeah, so you can, so you're coming up on the fourth quarter of the year, you can pull this up from last year and say, okay, this is where we have opportunities to staff more. We have some opportunities to do some promotions, et cetera. All right, so that's productivity.
Mm-hmm.
What we have now is service ticket.
Yes,
And
it is a good one. So this tells you the dollar amounts on the service tickets that are processed within that hour of the day.
And so this also stars. I love that there's a star for the day and time. And so this shows that Wednesday is highest revenue day. I think you said Thursday was highest in productivity, but Wednesday is the highest in revenue, at least for service revenue.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, you could definitely be way more productive on one day, but then if you look at it from a revenue aspect, you might not be making your most money in that highly productive day.
It also just gives you a clean way to look at the week. I looked at productivity. I was looking at Sunday and saying, it's reasonably productive on Sunday. But then I'm looking at revenue and it's just a fraction of any other day. It also looks like 3 o'clock is the peak hour, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. All right. And this is a client example. This isn't necessarily indicative of your full database. We should say to our listeners.
No, that's exactly
Okay.
right. Thank you for, yeah. So this is just a small example of data that we can look at. And again, this is your service ticket trends that you can look at as well too. And it kind of aligns with what we saw with productivity. That 13th week of December, we were higher and then going lower. And again, this could be seasonal to the end of the fourth quarter.
So I think, you've distinguished when we spoke a little bit about like overall trends and then trends in your own business. What this allows us to do is much more deeply look at trends in our own business. I love it.
I like it because, as salon owners, and I'll add to that, Tom, salon business owners are always, and not just salon owners, right? Like this is any industry that you're in. There's always going to be these external trends that you don't have control over. You still need to create initiatives around them, but then there are trends in your business and those are the ones that you can control. But first you have to pinpoint them and see, am I trending up here? What am I doing right? How do I capitalize on that? Am I trending down? What initiatives can I take in the next quarter to retract that trend?
So here's a stat mat for product tickets, number of product tickets.
Yeah, so this would just be people that are coming in and solely buying products. So this kind of tells you where your retail demand is and what day, right? You could use this a number of different ways. I'd say the best thing here would be to make sure on Wednesdays that you have a retail ambassador that's on the floor helping with retail sales, right? That's it. So helping with staffing, seeing where there's an opportunity to increase product sales maybe on different days of the week. Fridays might be your most productive days, maybe your highest service sales. And I'm just using that example. It doesn't really align with the one that we just looked at. But what can we do to coach the team that is working on Friday to sell more tickets? Or how do we get someone on the floor that educates customers more to increase product sales?
God, I would just have a field day in coaching with this, a field day in coaching, and then also working with managers and what have you on
Say
business
that I'm a
decisions.
data geek and I get really excited when I start to look at stuff like this. There's so many stories you can tell with it. Same
Now
with
we have now we
trend.
have trend for product sales. Now we see a spike. Go for it here.
So up and down, week over week, we spiked in that week. It kind of declined as we got closer to the holiday. But the good news here is if this was a real case scenario, your trend line is flat. So you're not in trouble because you had a few weeks that were lower than usual. Your trend is looking good.
So before we get to another stat, Matt, is this something that you can go back in history on, like, or is it just as of when you set it up? Or will it
Um,
automatically go back like a couple
no,
years?
it goes off of the data that you have in the system. It's not indicative of when you set the actual feature up. That's a
So
great.
let's say I've been on the platform for 5 years
Uh-huh.
and or 10 years. Okay. I could go back for 10 years and say, what does my December look like?
In hindsight, you can, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do we have here? Walk-in now this is hugely valuable. This is interesting. Walk-in tickets. What do we got here?
So walk-in tickets are really just like they say, these are people that are simply walking into the business and getting and making a purchase. This probably likely in most scenarios, walk-in tickets are in our system are people that we haven't assigned a customer name to. So they just don't want to disclose their information. Typically, you're in a high traffic area where people could walk into the businesses when you would have a lot of walk-in tickets. It could be a number of things. It could be gift card purchases, product purchases, not likely a lot of service tickets that are in here. But again, this is just going to tell you an average of how often or how many service tickets you're doing.
Okay.
And, or actually, I'm sorry, in this one, it's the percentage of walk-in tickets that you have. So, yeah, it just tells you kind of a heat of when you have the most.
All right. So we have a slide here. Why don't you explain this?
Yeah, this is just kind of, the three kind of pillars of what the stat map is about. And that's exactly what we've kind of demonstrated through our conversation today is that you can visually examine metrics, right? So you have that visualization. I think everyone has this data in any system that you use, you have this data, but it's the matter of how you're visually kind of putting it together and seeing it all in one place. You can identify those trends. Are we going up? Are we going down? And from that, you can make data informed decisions. So I always like to say this, it's, and I liked your podcast last week where you had Square One on, where you had someone that was making, I want to make everybody happy. I'm the yes person. I'm the no person, right? This is where you can make decisions that are based on fact and not based on feelings, right? And that's super important to take the emotion out of it so that you can really start to see the outcomes that you want to see in your business.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's very good stuff. I love this, and it's very visual. Is that it on? Oh, we've got.
No, I think I want to say that's it. We might have gone. That might be another example. That's it. Yeah.
All right, this is hugely valuable, Denise. And my mind's kind of spinning on maybe how to use this and make this more frequent part of decision making. We have practices at Qnity that we teach. One's called week in, week out, and that's every single, same place, same time every week. Dig deep into your finances. It's also a great time to dig into opportunities going forward. So I think this is probably something that could be part of a weekly ritual, is just have updates on how's our stat map changing? What decisions can we make around that about scheduling? How can we bring this into coaching? How can this affect front desk staffing? I just see a lot of applications to this. So,
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. And that's it. It's just you can get as creative as you want with this, right?
all right. Anything else to add today?
That's it. That's really it. Thank you for allowing me to be a guest. It was great to just have a good conversation with you about data, which I love talking about. So, and congratulations again to you. I hope you enjoy the other side of parenting, right? The grandparenting side of it.
It is another side, isn't it? Yes. Let's give Denise a virtual round of applause. Denise, you have the $1 million. Have you gotten $1 million light bulb before?
No.
You haven't?
Hmm.
I
I'm
thought
excited.
I thought you've been a guest on here before. Boy, I
This is
am.
actually my first time.
Oh my gosh. That is not feigned embarrassment. That's true embarrassment. All right. Well, you get the $1 million light bulb that indoctrinates you into our brain trust. Let's give Denise a virtual round of applause. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
All right, everybody. Thanks for another episode of Lightbulb Moments here. We are on next week. We have a great guest. Watch for your email who she is. And again, shout out to our sponsors, Lightheart Sanders, Green Circle, and Forest. A shout out to Denise Boudreaux from SalonBiz. What a great segment on stat mats. And then, of course, Dave Murray from the DeJulius Group. Thanks also to the Qnity team, who behind the scenes makes a lot of this stuff happen. And most importantly, thanks for spending some of your precious attention and time with us today. Hope to see you next week. Thanks again. Bye.